From the Kitsukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee, it's ICONversation.
Elliot Perry, otherwise known as Socks.
Man, thank you. How you guys doing?
Mr. Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Glad to have Mr. Allen Houston.
Trying to stay warm up here in New York.
I hear you. Personality extraordinaire, Mr. Scoop Jackson.
I appreciate the encore.
Mr. Michael Ray Richardson.
What's up, man? Glad to be here, brother.
A 3-time NBA All-Star, the one, the only, Detlef Shrimp.
Howard and Larry, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
ICONversation. ICONversation. ICONversation.
Hello and welcome to R&R on Sports. I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm the fantastic Larry Robinson.
And we are back to you, back at you. Back! For another weekend. Great weekend. Hope you are having a fantastic end to a wonderful week. And,
well, listen, man, I want them to know. But we got Lisa Borders from the WNBA.
Yes.
And we also have Swin Cash. All-time great WNBA,
all-star
all-time
world
great
champion
for University of Connecticut. She's won 2 national championships there under the great coach Gino Auriemma.
Before she started playing,
I don't think Adrian's gonna like you calling her.
She was a cupcake. She didn't think before she started playing juniors tennis, where you make your own calls. By the way, my daughter didn't think that anybody would lie, steal, or cheat in a tennis game. So she was rather Pollyanna-ish when it came to that. But juniors tennis learned a little something, and she had to really stand up for herself. And you know, I think that's good. I think that's good because women need to learn girls need to learn how to be assertive and not let people take advantage of them. I am concerned at the complicity that I see in women's athletics.
What do you mean by that, complicity?
Well, Larry, to be honest, I think that there are situations where parents may be endeavoring to be socially and politically correct when it comes to coaches, and especially if they have a talented athlete in their homes,
right? And
coaches and other peripheral people who may end up taking advantage of their child.
Well, I mean, if you look at what's happened with the
physically and otherwise,
with the
sexually and otherwise,
Olympic Committee,
right,
and what's happening with Dr. Nasser
and Michigan State University,
you have a whole lot of parents and people that are put in authority positions that are there to protect those young ladies that really fell asleep at the wheel or turned their heads as it relates to their what do you say? They abdicated their role and responsibility to protect these young girls.
How can a sports medicine doctor that sexually violates your child, which in some cases he was feet away from you, how could you not know that something was going on, either from observation or from merely talking to your child?
Well, how about this? You had people that were reporting that something was going wrong.
And nothing ever got done.
And nothing got done from the U.S. Olympic Committee or Michigan State University.
Absolutely.
So
your child stayed in the program.
Yes.
Stayed in the program. Kept competing and whatnot, and had to deal with that. I fault the parent for that. Obviously, I don't let Nassar off the hook.
Right.
But I fault the parent for that, because you have got to be more vigilant about what's happening with your child.
Absolutely. And with that, like I said, we got two phenomenal women, one iconic athlete, and that you're going to hear from. As I said, right after this, you're going to be hearing from Swin Cash and Lisa Borders, WNBA president.
ICONversation. 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 ICONversation.
Swin Cash. This is her last go around. All-time greats.
Things have really come full circle for me. You look at the fact that we're playing Seattle. You look at the fact that I'm playing for my former coach from Detroit that I won championships with.
And here we are with ICONversation. And as you know, an icon is an image. And today, the image is a 3-time WNBA champion, a 4-time WNBA All-Star, a 2-time NCAA champion, and I think about 3 gold medals in various between Olympics and international competition. We are thrilled to have with us today WNBA's own Swin Cash. Swin, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. We're going to start at the beginning. Let's start not at the beginning, but let's start with you telling everyone what you're doing now.
Currently, I'm splitting time between New York and Atlanta. I am an NBA ambassador. I work closely with the NBA for their Leadership Together initiatives, and mostly that's dealing with issues on social injustice, inequality, things within our community with the police department and our youth.
Clearly, you are part Jamaican.
You got about 12 jobs,
yeah,
man.
That was 12 jobs, man.
We talking to McKee's Port Finest, brother.
Yeah, it is. It is. All of Western Pennsylvania, actually. Big football. Yeah. But we've had some greats come through McKeesport and football.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was trying to hold it down on the basketball front.
There you go.
We're doing all right.
Got to represent. We're going to be back with more Swin Cash on R&R on Sports ICONversation right after these messages.
Riffin' on Jazz.
This next gentleman we're talking about has an unforgettable voice.
My sugar is so refined.
Jazz was the happiest. Now, Callaway went to my school.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's not an alum because he didn't graduate. He has some gigs to do.
Riffin' on Jazz on the Kazukian Network.
Kazukian, K-U-D-Z-U-K-I-A-N.
And we are back with our ICONversation segment, and you know the hits just keep on coming. We keep introducing you to fabulous and intriguing people. Today is no different. Today we are very, very pleased to have with us the president of the WNBA, none other than Miss Lisa Borders. Lisa, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you. In the WNBA, the attendance is the highest since 2011. Ratings are up. Revenue is up. Things are going very, very, very well. How does a little girl from Atlanta end up in the raucous world of professional sports?
You know what, Larry? You stole all my thunder. You stole how well we're doing.
Everybody needs to know you're doing great.
Thank you so much. Listen, we had a historic 20th season. All those performance indicators that you have highlighted are exactly on point. So thank you for having done all your homework and following the league and being so supportive. Listen, this has been a journey. I tell folks it looks like it happened overnight for me and this league, but it did not. I had 3 predecessors who did excellent work and laid down the infrastructure, worked on the game, marketed the game for the last 20 years. So the product is a pristine one. It is extraordinary. No one argues about what extraordinary athletes we have and what terrific basketball they play. So if you want to see people move their feet and alley-oop and take it down the lane, you need to watch the athletes.
I love it.
Oh, now.
I love it.
They are rolling it all the time.
We're going to call you Donna King as opposed to Lisa Borders now.
Best hype woman in the show.
I love our athletes. They are extraordinary. They can twist their bodies into pretzels and do things that you nor I could ever imagine. It takes a lot of work. So for 20 years, we've been working to get to this point. We're still one of the youngest professional leagues in the world.
Right.
Yep.
But having achieved what we've been able to put together is a testament to all the work for the women and men and teams who have come before us. We have the privilege as today's teams and today's president to carry the baton on this journey. We have not yet reached our destination, but we are on the road to success.
Fantastic. This is R&amp Sports, and we're speaking with WNBA President Lisa Borders. Lisa, you have ascended from a long career in politics. Tell me, how does a person make that jump, and what skills are easily transferable in your new role as president of the WNBA?
You know, that's a terrific question. I had the privilege of serving in elective office for 7 years, as you know, as vice mayor and president of the Atlanta City Council. And what I would tell you is that the notion that I am in charge of the league is a misnomer. I have the privilege of leading the league, but it really does take a village to run any business, and this one is no exception. So there are 12 teams all across the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast and everywhere in between. I have the privilege of helping to set the strategy, but it has to be executed at the local level. And when you think about politics, you've probably heard this before, my friends, all politics is local.
Tip O'Neill.
Yeah, so the same thing is true for sports. So I office here in the New York market, so we have the New York Liberty, but I'll be flying to LA tomorrow to give out the championship rings from 2016.
There you go.
Nice.
Right. There you go.
Right, so we are rolling from coast to coast. So the challenge, I think, in any business is the same challenge that you have in politics. You're trying to influence people and get them to do what you're doing or follow along or join you. We're trying to invite fans into our arenas across the country. In politics, you're trying to get people to engage at a civic level, vote for you so that you can bring good public policy to the public and municipal domain. So it is absolutely applicable that you take a set of skills, people skills, public policy skills, analytical skills, budget management skills, and bring them from the political or the public sector back to the private sector, where I have the privilege of working today.
I want to talk about Kelsey Plum, who's coming into the San Antonio Stars, and the arm that she has, which is absolutely incredible. I saw her throw into the rafters. Is there a rookie protocol that comes into play for girls coming into the league?
You know, we have extraordinary athletes, and that's just a prime example. Kelsey Plum, I tease her and call her number one because she went number one in the draft. She obviously attended the University of Washington, and she now holds the NCAA scoring record for women. It's just extraordinary what she is able to do. But she has a rich legacy to join. When you look at the Lisa Leslies and the Rebecca Lobos and the Cheryl Swoops, who were the original 3 to C in 1996, 1997, you now see Kelsey Plum because you have come forward 2 decades, and you've got a kid who can take a T-shirt and toss it into the upper deck. Sports is played by athletes. Period, full stop. People who have extraordinary skill in a given area. We love all sports, but we take basketball first among equals because that's the game that we love and that our professional athletes play. So the difference in the marketing is very little. It's how you market. The volume of what we do is the same. We are a portfolio of basketball properties. You've got the NBA, you've got the WNBA, and our development league, which obviously our development league is the source of the talent for our NBA teams. The WNBA started in 1996 offers women the opportunity to achieve their dreams as well. So we are the youngest, as I mentioned before, in terms of professional sports leagues, but we are young and mighty. So we are in I would call it an entrepreneurial phase. So if you think of companies, traditional companies like the one I formerly came from, the Coca-Cola Company, which is 125 years old, you would call that a legacy company. It's a consumer goods company, but it's a legacy company. You might want to look at someone else like the Runway, which is a new 21st century company started by two women, and it basically speaks to, they call it a closet in the cloud, where you actually rent your clothes. So, interestingly enough, both of those are consumer goods companies, but one is what is termed traditional, and one is called new age or digital. The same thing is true in sports. You've got the tradition of the NBA, which is 71 years old, and then you've got the new youngster on the block, the WNBA, which is 21 years old. Both of us play sports. Both of us play them incredibly well at the highest level. Did you see the women win the 6th gold medal last September in Rio de Janeiro?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we did.
We are the source of the talent for the best in the world.
Awesome.
So we market ourselves as the best of the best, just as the men do, even though the men's league is 71 and our league is 21.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with WNBA President Lisa Borders. Lisa, I see you guys have a great partnership with Twitter and Periscope as it relates to the streaming of your ring ceremony. Tell me how those relationships are. Do you see them benefiting the WNBA and its growth and its fan base?
One of our players, Jewel Lloyd, who came out of Notre Dame a year early and who now plays for the Seattle Storm, and she is a superstar. She just had an extraordinary weekend, averaging 26 points. She was phenomenal. She actually played in China during what we call our planning season, formerly known as the off-season. She hurt her ankle. She came home. I called her earlier this year, January or February, just to check in and see how she was doing. We talked about her ankle, but before we finished the conversation, I asked her, how do you think we could better market the league and get exposure and awareness for the league?
More ICONversation next on the Kazukian Network. ICONversation. ICONversation.
I got asked in an interview, what do you want to take from today? I said, listen, today is not about me. If I've done anything in this league, I hope I've given everything back to everyone else.
I've never been a player that's only been about the basketball part. Now, mind you, I've been about the winning because that's what I love to do. And I've been about the championships.
I love the game, I respected the game, and now I'm giving it all back to you. Thank you very much. God bless.
Welcome back to iConversation. And we have Swin Cash with us, the WNBA's best and finest. Swin, let's talk about coming up. Now, you were obviously very, very highly touted in high school, and ended up at the University of Connecticut. What drove you to UConn other than the obvious, in addition to the obvious?
Greatest coach in college basketball history, man.
But I mean,
I brought you in because I thought you'd be a professional and ask these hard probing questions.
Let her answer the question. Was that not the soul, but that the most major motivator?
Actually, it wasn't at the time.
See?
When I went to school, they had just only won one national championship. They had lost in a couple of Final Fours, and so I came in '98. And when we came in, it was more so a couple of things. One, I was very close to my family, and I have a huge family. And at that time, we were in the Big East, and so I knew that if I was looking at UConn, then they were going to play at Pitt, they were going to play at West Virginia. It was close to home. They were going to play in Philly, and so these were all places that my family would be able to drive to and watch me play, and that was important to me. So I was looking at that them for that heavily. And then secondly, we had one of the best recruiting class, if not the best recruiting class in women's basketball, as I'm told. I didn't declare that. Other people have said that, but I was coming in with some amazing talent, and at the time, Uconn was playing more of a half-court type of offense, and they were looking to basically, look, they weren't able to recruit and get the athletic, talented girls to come there. We were the first class that came in, and we basically became was a run-and-gun type of team.
Right.
We were running, we would defend you from end line to end line, and we just changed up the dynamic of what style of play you're going to play at Uconn.
I remember.
So I knew we were coming in to change. Yeah.
I remember when they played that very deliberate, methodical half-court kind of
Rebecca Lobo
offense.
era, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but it was just that we were right in the middle of that wave of, like, Tennessee was peaking with national championships. You had the three Meeks, Shamiqua Holsclaw, and Tamika Randall, and Tamika Catching. So like, it was a time where they needed to recruit, and they got our class to come in, and that's when the days of the Pat Summitt-Gino rivalry was at its best, and I was just so happy to play in that era. It was just amazing.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with WNBA great Swin Cash. Swin, going to Uconn and playing for Gino Auriemma, what is that like?
Well, it's very intense. I mean, Uconn is, I always say it's ran more like a pro team, where the demand of balancing not only your schoolwork but tough practices, games, and then also the media. I mean, we used to have media traveling with us like we were an NBA team or we were the New England Patriots, and so you have to learn as soon as you come in as a freshman how to deal with all those different things. Coach Auriemma, obviously, on the court is very demanding. Nothing really gets by him, and he pushes you to the point where he feels like he can break you down and then help build you back up. And so it was a mental challenge each and every day, but I felt like I was built to be there and to be able to thrive regardless of what the circumstances were.
Now, was going into the WNBA a given for you? I mean, was as a college student, did the prospect of going to the WNBA compete in any way, shape, or form with a career?
Yeah, well, I mean, the WNBA was so new. It was amazing to think about it. When I was in the high school, the WNBA just started out, and so I got an opportunity to just think about the possibility of not just thinking about overseas, but to be in the WNBA at home. Like, that's all you thought about was, like, walk up and down the street and be saying, we got next. Like, that was it.
I remember that.
So in college, that's what I was focused on. It was like, okay, I want to make sure that I get my degree, I want to finish, and I also want to put myself in a position to be able to go and play in the WNBA.
What was it like being, did you do the overseas, did you play a lot of overseas ball as well?
Yeah, throughout my career, I played 15 years in the WNBA, and I spent half my time playing international overseas. I played in Russia, I played in the Czech Republic, I played in China, and I also spent half that time staying at home, and I worked for ESPN, and worked for CBS Sports, MSG Network, and I was one of the players that decided that I would turn down some contracts overseas at times because I wanted to make sure I was laying a foundation down for when I finished of what career I wanted to have. And so I've been strategic in what I wanted to do since the first day I stepped on campus, and I feel like even though it's changed a little bit and evolved as time has gone on, my family and the supporters and mentors I have around me, we've stayed just focused and just continue to just build.
How was it as an African-American woman playing and living in Russia?
It's different. It's not only so much just an African-American woman. You have to think that sometimes you go to these places. I mean, China was more eye-opening than Russia. At least in Russia, sometimes they do see not only African-American women, but they see people from Africa. And so they start learn how to distinguish between, are you from Africa or are you from Are you from Britain? And that's how it kind of changes a little bit. To be in China, where there's so many people that, I mean, their bloodlines and their culture of how they looking the same in regards to kind of, you look at Chinese people who have dark hair, and like we're more of a melting pot here in the U.S., whereas in China you get long bloodlines of Chinese men and women only marrying each other. And so for me, culturally, like I was having to adapt to their culture and really learn and kind of embody everything that was there. And that was it was very challenging at times because I didn't speak the language, and I was the only person on the team. You only have one American on the team. But I learned a lot about myself, and so I was very appreciative of that opportunity too.
And at 6'1", you were looking on top of everybody's heads.
Well, not some of the girls on my team. There's a few girls on my team that were tall. What happens in China is a little different than here in the U.S. Any of the female or guys that show any type of sign of athletic ability, they tend to go to these schools that are like, academies. And so I would run into a lot of tall Chinese girls, which for them over there isn't normal.
I'm sure they really stuck out being female and being tall as well.
WNBA great Swin Cash. Swin, how is it, describe how it is as a young woman right out of college, being a professional athlete in like the WNBA.
That was what you wanted to be, where then the WNBA comes along and it's like anything, you can visualize and see yourself in a position because you see people who look like you that are doing what you love to do. And that's when you talk about having role models, and that's why it's so important for me that the WNBA continues to grow and continues to thrive, because I remember what it symbolized to me as a young girl.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with Detroit Shock great, WNBA great, Swin Cash. Swin, who are some of the people that really influenced you? It doesn't necessarily have to be a WNBA player, it doesn't have to be an NBA player, but who are some of the people that really had an impact on your life and your career?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the WNBA, and I think some of the pioneers of the league are always going to be people we look at that inspired us. I mean, Tina Thompson, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoop, Cynthia Cooper, Teresa Witherspoon, all those players laid the foundation down in the league for us. For me, one of my biggest role models to date, obviously, is my mother. She was one of the women that I saw her every day getting up to go to work, sometimes working 2 jobs to make sure that everything was okay. I saw how her and my stepdad just really looked out for me in a number of ways and taught me about not only just being a great basketball player, but being an even better human.
Women have long since, in my opinion, been much, much better players in terms of well-rounded players as far as being able to do everything that necessary that a well-rounded basketball player should be.
Right.
I mean,
well, to me, it's very fascinating. I don't knock anybody, guys or girls that are playing the game, and playing the game in its purest form. I love the dunks and everything else. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you have to knock one side or the other. And it's just amazing to me that people find an easy target to do that with women.
More ICONversation next on the Kazukian Network. ICONversation.
The off-year electorate, the midterm electorates, are older, less diverse, more conservative. You have 2 electorates fighting for the future of this country. And what I'd say to your viewers and people listening in is, you know what? You got to stop that older, less diverse electorate from funking around with your future.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
I like the way he said funking around.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
I did like that, but he said the older.
I'm gonna start using it.
He said the older electorate is funky.
Well, basically, it's what he's saying. He's saying that midterm elections
funking around,
and that's true
with our future.
Because it's noted. And I think you absolutely
don't let
midterm elections.
Don't let them funk up the future.
Oh my God.
Kazukian, ICONversation. special tribute to Swin Cash, finishing up her 15th and final season as a member of the WNBA.
Swin is my everything. You know, she's definitely a role model. Just her tenacity on the court, the way she carries herself, how huge she is in community work. She's just really selfless. I think that's why she's so successful on and off the court.
Back with ICONversation, WNBA great Swin Cash.
Recently, Swin, you were participated in the King Day event at the National Civil Rights Museum here in Memphis, and a lot of the comments were around the current situation in our country and some of the things that the president has said. And I wanted to get your take on where we are today as a country. How can sports help us position us in a better place?
Yeah, well, shout out to my sister Jamel Hill. Known her for a very long time, and I have a high respect for her, not only as a woman, but also as a woman that covers sports. She knows her stuff, and she knows exactly what she's talking about. So how sports can play a pivotal role. I would say this, athletes have a platform, whether you want it or not. It doesn't matter if you have a group of 5 or a group of 5,000 or 5 million. You have an opportunity to have a voice, and I don't think that you give up your voice because you play a sport. People a lot of times want to say, "Oh, just shut up and play. We want you to do that." Well, that's not the reality, because people who play sports are human beings, and it doesn't matter if you drive fancy car, have a mansion. When you get behind a wheel of that car and you're driving down the street, you are considered like any African American out there. It doesn't matter how much money you make, it could be you next. And so I think athletes understand that, especially minority athletes, and that's why they're trying to use their voice, because they have an opportunity to create change for the people in their communities. And I give a lot of credit to, especially to different races, white, male and female, and different races that have stood up and been allies in this fight. I think it's very important that we understand that, yes, people of color need to obviously stand up and use your platform. Athletes can do that, but also making sure that you are recruiting those allies and people who want to be allies, whether it's on your team, whether it's international players. And I feel like that's the way that we can do better. Listen, our country is in a place right now where it's so divided, it's so partisan, it's just shameful, and it's disheartening. But at the same time, you have to understand how you do your part. And a lot of times doing your part may just be 4 or 5 people in your community, your Facebook friends. It can be just a small part that we all need to make sure that we're taking care of an opportunity to create change in this country.
Now, I've been looking, and I see that the WNBA registered its highest total attendance in 2017 and highest average attendance since 2011. What, in your opinion, is that attributable to?
I would say, you know what, the WNBA, and I'm not even going to lie to you guys, after the women stood up 2 years ago and said, listen, we are at a point where we're hurting. Our communities are hurting. We have to do something. And he had the media blackouts and everything that was happening. Mm-hmm. We had more people buying season tickets and coming out to games because they respected and appreciated the fact that women were ready to take a fine to be able to stand up for what they believed in. And I think that really hit a chord for a lot of our fan base and other people that said, you know what, even if I can't make games, I still want to try to be a part of it somehow, because they appreciated that the women do care. And so I think that had some of it, some to do with it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, you got to admit, there's some good basketball going on. I mean, these are girls in this league that can ball, that literally have grown up in the WNBA 21 years, right? Right. So a lot of girls that are coming into the league right now, that's all they know. That's all they've known. Right. Like, I got to WNBA when I got to high school. But a lot of these girls, like my niece is actually 13. Since she's been a baby, she's had a WNBA ball in her hand. She's just now starting AAU and all these different things. But she's been saying, I'm going to be there one day. because that's a dream of hers. And so that's why you're getting such a higher level coming in now, because girls are really working on their skills.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So do you see ever a time that the WNBA players or the WNBA as a whole will rival the NBA as far as attention and
Well, I don't look at it as a rival. I look at it as a partnership. I think the NBA understands what the WNBA can be, that it can stand on its own, because at the end of the day, women just in general, not only just WNBA, represent half of our country, right? So if we have women that are out there, and if we just say, okay, over half, right? And if we just say that, all right, we're going to marginalize this group over here, it's bad business. And I tell people this all the time. Like, they're like, oh, the NBA, like, they're just doing a favor. It's like, no, this is good business. This is doing anybody a favor. They understand women can have their own league and it can sustain on its own. And I don't want my brothers on the NBA side to get less. I mean, have y'all seen those contracts? Like, I want them to keep getting more. I just want to make sure that our women are starting to get what they deserve, and starting to say to some of these sponsors and advertisers and everything, yeah, you can give to the guys, but make sure you can also support the women, because this league is a quality league with amazing talent, and that's what it's about. It's not about rivalry. It's really about, making sure that we're equal too, and that's important.
Well, I think you make a great point. I think you make Swin Cash on ICONversation. I think you make a phenomenal point in that you're not saying rival, and I didn't mean rival from a standpoint of going against one another, but more so rivaling for the attention of America. I mean, you see the NBA salaries you mentioned going higher and higher and higher. I think Steph Curry's going to make, his contract is somewhere around $40 million a year. I would like to. I feel like. I want to believe that there will be a time that we will be paying women athletes and women basketball players the same types of salaries. What needs to happen in order for that to occur?
Well, it's going to take some time, but I would say think about the NBA when it started off and where the NBA was at year 21, and the NBA finals being on tape delay.
Right.
And I guarantee you that if you look back in the day and you talk to Bob Lanier and some of those guys about did they ever think they see the day that Steph Curry, a 6'2" point guard that probably trying to dunk the same amount as I'm trying to dunk, but can shoot the three, would be getting $40 million a year. You talk to don't even go back that far, Bob Lanier. Just go to Isaiah Thomas and ask him, and ask Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Did you ever think that? And they'll probably say to you, we hoped that it would happen one day. Well, it did happen. And so it's going to take some time to continue to grow the league. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that if not for my niece to have a bigger piece of the pie, then I do believe that my child and my children, hopefully, will have an opportunity to be able to get the fruits of everyone else's labor.
I think they can. I came out of the television business, and I know that women are the most powerful force in terms of advertising and in terms of ratings, particularly television ratings. So here's what I'm saying. I am saying that given what you are saying and given the stats from the increase in terms of the increase in attendance and all of that, and I guess ratings. I didn't look up to see if the television ratings increase, but that's really what the WNBA is going to have to do. You're going to have to drive that interest to into television and to generate ratings. With ratings come everything else. Comes advertising revenue. With advertising revenue and more of that coming to the WNBA, salaries will go up. It's funny how that happens, but that's exactly how it happens. So that's really what you're going to do. In addition to playing, your niece is going to need to watch the games on television. She may already, but more people like her are going to have to do that.
Well, I'll give you guys. I'll give you guys an even better analogy of it is that I understand what you're saying about television, but actually the reality of it is it's more digital. The WNBA signed the first contract of streaming games on Twitter, and the numbers were through the roof.
Right.
And so my niece, being like the kids, and you talk about generation, X and
Z,
the millennials and
Z
everyone.
right now.
Z. Their whole thing is digital and what's on their phone. And so my niece, watching games on Twitter, that's like her joy for her.
Same thing. I'm a dinosaur, so it's TV in my world. But yes.
Yes, you are a dinosaur.
Okay. Don't make me talk bad in front of this nice lady. But anyway, yes. I mean, the same end. Viewers with the streaming, we understand, has really increased the viewership tremendously.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things I think that also people are looking for the better brand of basketball. Now that Golden State has kind of shared with the world, or at least the United States, a better brand of basketball, I think that it is going to allow the women's basketball game to be more elevated. And now with all these screens in everybody's hands, I think it only allows a better opportunity to access the content that's being produced by the WNBA.
And I tell you what's not going to hurt at all, is the next female LeBron.
Do we have that on the horizon?
Well, we got some I don't know if it's a female LeBron, but we got some pretty dynamic players. Right, so you guys want to rock out and come in a couple of games with me this summer, we can find a few for you.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that. We spend a lot of time in Atlanta doing some great work, and so I'm going to have to look you up and see where some of these great ball players are, because I think that
sounds good.
The best days of basketball for the WNBA are ahead of it.
Thank you.
Swin Cash, we want to thank you for being with us here on R&R on Sports, specifically ICONversation. And here's the big question. Once you are on ICONversation, we always ask, this is like the mafia. You cannot get this. You must be a part of our family from now on. Will you agree to that?
Well, see, I get to choose what family I want to go into. Okay.
Yes, you can choose ours.
I didn't get a chance to choose.
You don't have to sacrifice yours.
Family. But I appreciate the love.
We want to have you back.
To be a part of your family.
Absolutely, we want to have you back at some time, and we appreciate you being with us here on R&R on Sports. And we'll be back with more after this.
Getting money, never stumbling. Needed more, that's why she brought a friend. Spent a few blue hundreds.
The off-year electorate, the midterm electorates, are older, less diverse, more conservative. You have two electorates fighting for the future of this country. And what I'd say to your viewers and people listening in is, you know what? You got to stop that older, less diverse electorate from funking around with your future.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Fantastic interview, ICONversation, and that's what it's all about with us. We get in, we take a deep dive. We get in deep and talk about sports and women's sports by two women who have made a difference and are making a huge difference in the WNBA.
Swin Cash brought up something really interesting. And, I can't remember if it was off mic or not, but she talked about how everybody loves how the Golden State Warriors are playing and how they're moving the ball and shooting shots. Women have been playing that way forever. I can remember in college when I used to say, women play a much more fundamentally sound brand of basketball. Their shooting percentages are high. They may take better shots, so on and so forth. And I think she just really, endorsed or approved some of the things that I was saying long ago as a male basketball player.
Absolutely. I mean, we shortcut it. We can shortcut it. We can shortcut it athletically, as far as that's concerned. And you know what? It's typically accepted when a phenomenal player just can't shoot free throws.
Right. When he can
the most
dunk,
basic
like Shaq,
thing in the world,
Shaq, and those guys can be horrendous. Shooting free throws.
And it's passed over.
And it's passed over because they great in the post.
Absolutely.
You know, it's amazing. But you're exactly right.
So yeah, she did point that out. But you know, these young ladies are so talented, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and it not only is it crazy, it is it probably borders on offensive. But when the highest compliment that they can get from a guy is, you know, you don't play like a girl.
Well, I can tell you this. Listen, on our own sports, check us out. ICONversation, some of the best interviews in history.
We're out. Take care.
Peace.
ICONversation. Executive producer Larry Robinson. Produced at Kazukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. ICONversation. Part of the Kazukian Network.